You are listening to CPA Career Path podcast with Rosie Flaherty, a CPA and MSA. This is podcast number 3, my CPA journey with Steve Williams, a partner in charge of the office in Tustin at Eide Bailey. Hi, Steve. Thank you so much for the interview today. First and foremost, can you please introduce a little bit about yourself?
Hi, Rosie. I'm Steve Williams. I'm a partner here in charge of the office in Tustin for Eide Bailey. Just about 2 years ago, we merged our accounting firm into Eide Bailey. And prior to that, we were known as HMWC CPAs and Business Advisors. And we have been in Orange County since 1968. So just a little bit more than 50 years. We celebrated our 50th anniversary just a few years ago.
I know you started the firm from very beginning, like 1979, right?
Yeah, so the firm started in 1968. I joined the firm in 1979, so it was about 10 years old when I joined the firm. Much smaller and way different than it is today, for sure.
So I really want to go very details from very beginning when you just started your college. Why did you choose accounting at that time?
That's a great question. I grew up in the Midwest. Mm-hmm. And when I was in high school, I was good in mathematics. I just got it. And my father's a chemical engineer. Mm-hmm. And so I remember having a conversation with my father when I was a senior in high school. And he said, Steve, I really don't care where you go to college, but I'd prefer that you don't go to the community college right down the street and that you go away to college. And he encouraged me at the time to go into business because he was in a corporation at that point in time and felt that the leaders of the corporation had business experience, and that's where they had gotten their degrees. So although he was quite good in mathematics as well as being a chemical engineer, he had suggested that I go into business. So he had no idea that I was going to go halfway across the United States and go to college here in California, but I did. I graduated high school in Kansas City and came out to California to go to college at Long Beach State University. Mm-hmm. And I tell people that it was basically a one-way ticket for me. I've lived out here ever since.
Why did you pick California, not any other state?
Well, there's a girl involved.
Oh, okay.
So I was dating a girl in high school, and her family got transferred out here to California. And so I'm a kid growing up in the Midwest, and the opportunity to come out to California to go to college was just like a dream come true. So I followed her out here, and we were married a year later. And so we've been married for quite a long time now. And so that's one of the reasons I never went back, because I had a family here in Southern California.
Wow, it's high school sweetheart, right?
Yes, high school sweetheart. So.
Oh my gosh, it must be very tough for you to start a family when you just like freshman, right? A year after that, so you still freshman or sophomore. How did you manage or handle your life during that time?
Well, it was kind of a blur at many times. Yeah, it was not easy. So she had a full-time job, and she's probably smarter than me, but she had a full-time job and didn't go to school and worked to support our family. And at the same time, I also got a full-time, well, not a full-time job. I started a part-time job, and I got a job at Disneyland. And that happened during my freshman year of college. And I got a job in the department over there at Disneyland where I was counting money. And so it was kind of an interesting go for sure. I had a couple of other part-time jobs as well to kind of make ends meet going through college, but it was an interesting go. Not an easy go, but it was an interesting go for sure.
So how many hours did you work at Disneyland at that time? And you still was a full-time student, right?
Yes. So I was a full-time student, and I probably worked 20 hours a week at Disneyland, I would guess. And, if you think about Disneyland, the time that Disneyland is busy is when everybody else is on vacation. So I worked nights, I worked weekends, and then in the summertime, I worked full time during the summer.
So you really did not have any break at all, any time for yourself. School and then job and then school and job, just go back and forth.
No, but I worked at Disneyland, so.
Well, it's fun. Are you a huge fan of Disneyland?
So we've been a few times, yeah.
Okay,
I still enjoy going.
Oh, yeah. That explains why.
Yeah.
Yes, that's great. And so, how many years did you graduate? Because you seem to work a lot. So did you still graduate in 4 years?
4 years, yeah. Wow. So yeah, some of the semesters were pretty busy semesters. I had taken a summer school class my first summer after my freshman year, and I remember I was working at Disneyland full time, and I'm the new kid there working in this account money department, and so you don't get the great schedule. So I remember working some grad nights, which are overnighter kind of things for the high school graduates. So I'd go to school during the day, and then I'd work all night, and then I had summer school like the next morning. I remember pretty clearly my first accounting class, and I must have closed my eyes in the accounting class because the professor asked me, he says, "Mr. Williams, are we keeping you awake?" And I'm thinking, this is not a great start to an accounting career at all. So in any event, I made it through the class and did well. And but I did graduate in 4 years, so it was a busy time. That's why it was a blur in many cases.
That's amazing, because summer class, you need to finish the class within 1 month, right?
Yeah, it's a short time frame, and you're there
high
for
demand.
Yeah.
So it's tough, because I took summer class and was like, wow, the class is supposed to finish in 3 or 4 months. Now you just finish that in 1 month only. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
And you still maintain the same 20 hours per week at Disneyland at that time?
So at that point in time, no. Then I'm working probably 36 or 40 hours because it's summer, and so you're working quite a bit. But I was working at night. So, a few hours of school during the daytime, and then you got to do homework, and then you go to work, and that was kind of the routine.
How many hours did you sleep?
Not as many as I'm able to now, I guess. Yeah, but you look at it, and you're making an investment, right?
Yeah.
So you got to put food on the table and a roof over your head. So you got to do something there to get a job. But what we do takes time, and you make an investment, and you hope that it pays off at some point in time. And fortunately for me, it's worked out quite well. So
yes. So after you graduate, did you know at that time that you wanted to be a CPA?
No. So while I was working at Disneyland then, they had promoted me to become a supervisor in that department. And so that gave me the opportunity to work more days. And then I took a number of night school classes. And then after I graduated with a degree in accounting, then I moved into a cost accounting department over there at Disneyland. And that was about the time that the Big Thunder Mountain Railroad was being constructed. And so that was one of the projects that we had worked on. So I'd moved to their accounting department at that point in time. But it was, for me, it wasn't the right fit long term, because I could tell that it was kind of the same routine from month to month, and I could tell where people were in their careers that were ahead of me, and it was just something that I thought, I don't know if this is right for me. So at the time, there was another coworker there that had decided that he was going to take the review course for the CPA exam and take the CPA exam and talked me into it, and I said sure. And so, there's another big time commitment there. It was that was at a time when the exam was offered twice a year, once in November and once in May. And so I took a November exam, which means that you're in school. And this was at a time when everything was paper, and at a time when everything was in person. And so, every night after I'd get home from work, then you go to, not every night, I guess Friday nights we didn't go, but most nights of the week, you would go off and for 3 hours sit in a classroom setting and learn I took the Becker review course, so it was they're teaching all this stuff on how to take the exam and pass the exam, and then on the weekends you're doing the homework, because the deal was with Becker at the time that if you could show that you did the homework and you didn't pass the exam, then you got to take the class over again for free. So you wanted to make sure you did the homework, because the classes are pretty pricey. At least for me at that time, it was expensive. Fortunately for me, I passed the exam on the first sitting, although I will say that it was somewhat intimidating, because I remember walking into I took it down in San Diego, and it was in like a gymnasium, and they have rows of tables and chairs set up. And again, it was a time before computers, and you were not allowed to bring a calculator in, so everything was just by hand. And I can remember being in the room, and it's quiet, and they pass out the exam booklets, and some people flipped through the exam booklets and decided that they were done. And so they're walking out right at the beginning, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, what did I get myself into? But it was 2.5 days of exams, and then you had to wait a couple of months to get your results back. So, but fortunately for me, it worked out fine, and I was able to pass all 4 parts on the first sitting and didn't have to go back and take it again.
Wow, at that time when you had the CPA exam, did you have any kids at that time? Or not yet?
So our first kid was born as I was studying for the exam. He was born in September, and I took the end of September. I took the exam the beginning of November, same year. So yeah.
So at that time, I imagine that you have to take care of a lot of expenses for your family, for the coming kids, and then for the CPA exam as well.
Yeah, and that was back at a time when insurance didn't pay very much for kids. So we were paying the doctor, we were paying the hospital for the kid. And at the same time, yeah, you're paying for the exam, to do the exam and the review course for the exam and all that. So it was, yeah.
It was tough. And your wife at that time did not work, right? Just so you work at that time.
She was still working.
She was still working full-time job.
Yeah,
and you still working full-time job.
She was still, yeah, both of us were still working a full-time job.
And then a baby coming. And at that time, you lived in an apartment?
No, we had actually bought a home. We bought a condo while I was still in college. And then after I got out of college, it was probably a year or two after I was out of college, we bought a home. It was at a time when inflation was high, home prices were going up very steeply, and I happened to work when I was in the department where we counted money, a lot of teachers working in that department. And so they were talking continually about how they were buying homes, fixing them up, selling them, all of that. Convinced me it's time to buy a house, get into the real estate market early, and so we did, and it worked out. That worked out okay, but we did have a home.
That's great. After all your hard work you and your wife did during that time, I can imagine, I can picture in my mind how difficult it was for you at that moment to just handle all the stress around. I'm just wondering, have you ever feel, or did you ever feel when you go to bed, you just like, it's too much. I cannot handle it. Like, it's just too much on your shoulders.
I mean, I don't recall feeling like that. I mean, you're young, right? And you have goals and objectives that you're trying to accomplish in your life. And then part of it was having a family and owning a home and passing the CPA exam, right? And so, again, I was much younger than I am now, and certainly had much more energy to do all that. It impacts your life, your social life, certainly. And we had friends, and we did stuff with friends and all that kind of stuff. But unfortunately, the friends weren't very well off either. So, you're not doing all kinds of expensive stuff that you might have otherwise maybe wanted to do. But it worked out just fine for us.
I see. And so after you knew that you passed the CPA exam, did you change the job? Did you leave Disneyland?
Then I did.
Leave right away? You left right away?
Pretty close to right away. So I probably found out in probably January after the November exam, maybe late December, January. And by February, I probably had another job. And then I had moved to public accounting at that point in time.
So at that time you probably move a small CPA firm, or you moved to a medium-sized?
No, it was a medium-sized firm. It's certainly much larger today. It's a top 100 firm, I would say, in the country today. At the time, they had several offices, one of which was up in Westwood, and I was here in Orange County, so I was commuting to Westwood. They had plans of putting an office in Orange County when I joined them, but it didn't happen while I was there. I stayed with that firm for probably about 6 or 8 months or so, and then came to work with the predecessor of the firm that I'm with right now. So, so I made that change, and that was primarily due to I didn't want to drive to Westwood from Orange County every day.
It's a long drive. It's like an hour and a half to 2 hours every day?
Yeah, it was at least an hour, sometimes an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Going in on Saturdays during busy season was okay because there wasn't as much traffic on the road, but there was still a lot of traffic on the road back then as well.
So you work at Disneyland for around, I'd say, 5 to 6 years. That's correct?
Yeah, probably about 5 or 6 years.
Yes, and after that you moved to public. What made you move to public at that time? Who advised you at that time?
So with public accounting, the thing that I liked about public accounting was the different challenges that you face. So in private, you're dealing with the same company, you're dealing with the same month-end close, you're dealing with the same books, you're dealing with all the same kinds of things. And the thing that I like about public accounting is the variety of work that we do. So, you've got a variety of different projects. So when I started in public accounting, to get your CPA license, you had to put some audit hours in. So you had to work for a CPA firm for 2 years. You had to have like 500 audit hours or something like that. And then with a small firm that I joined, we did a lot of tax work. We did a lot of pension work. There was some bookkeeping work that we would have done, and then the audit work and financial statement work that we did. So it was a variety of different types of work and different types of projects. And then you add to that mix a variety of different types of clients. So you're not working with the same client all year. You're working with, could be 100 clients throughout the year. Could be more than that. And so you're seeing different challenges, different problems, different situations and circumstances. And for me, that was what did it for me. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the interaction with different clients. I enjoyed seeing what made certain clients very successful, because generally in a CPA firm, you're dealing with successful people. They're business owners, they're entrepreneurs, they're strategic thinkers. Now, granted, you will have some clients that their businesses fail from time to time, or they choose the wrong path or make unwise decisions, for sure. But you can learn from that as well. And so I just enjoyed the variety of what public accounting had to offer for me.
How did you know at that time that that public accounting would provide you all of that variety of projects and variety of clients when you just start moving to public?
I probably didn't know it at the time. I'm going to guess that I looked at it and said, well, if I've got a license, if I got a CPA certificate license, that just opens all kinds of doors for me, because I could go back to private, or I could stay in public, or there's a variety of other things that you might be able to do with that license as well. So that license is very, very valuable to someone that enjoys the accounting industry, regardless of how you use it. So, but once I got into the public accounting side of things, then I could see that this was pretty cool stuff.
So this is for you. That this is for you.
It was for me.
Oh, I see. So when you start moving from private to public, that public is for you. why did you choose to go small CPA firm instead of a bigger size?
Because that's where the job offer was. So at the time, the Big Four would have been recruiting out of colleges and things. And so when I went into public accounting, I was probably a couple of years after college. So that would have been, I had graduated college 2 years before. So I'd spent a year or two then at Disneyland after I graduated college. So I'm going to guess that the big firms weren't really looking for, I wasn't on their radar at that point in time, I would guess. And I don't know. I got recruited into the first public accounting firm I was with through a headhunter. And the other guy that I had taken the exam with went to the same firm. And so it's kind of a twofer kind of thing. And so that was good. But and then this firm that I joined here after 6 months or 8 months with the other firm was a much smaller firm, but the people were really nice when I interviewed with them. And so I liked the culture, I liked the environment that I was getting into.
Oh, that explains why. So you're talking about the value of CPA license. I want to go a little bit details about that. What's the value you could say that the CPA license could bring to you or to anyone who's holding it?
Well, I've never really sat down and quantified it, but if you figure that your working life might be 40 years, the value of that license has to be in excess of $1 million, I got to believe. When you look at, take for example, a firm like ours, you can do a lot of the things that we do without your CPA license, but there's going to be a limitation on how high you can go and progress in your career at certain levels. And so as you look to become managers or partners in accounting firms, it's going to be necessary for you to have that license. So there's a lot of opportunity and obviously higher compensation when you get to those levels, when you've got that CPA license. I would say, and in private, I don't know what that value might be in private, but I'm going to guess that if you're putting two people up against one another, that if I've got a CPA license and you don't have a CPA license, that I'm going to command a higher salary than you. And, if you think about it, over 40 years, $1 million is only $25,000 a year. I'm going to guess that there are CPAs out there that license is much more valuable to them than just the $1 million.
So you're saying that value of $1 million could be way up in private than in public?
I think it probably. So I guess what I'm saying is that the value in public is probably higher than it is in private accounting.
Oh.
But there will be a differentiator in private accounting as well, I believe.
We're talking about the value of CPA license. So when you move to public, you go to tax. You said that you have experience in both tax and audit. Why did not you go for audit?
So I guess for my situation, what I found was I enjoyed the interaction with the clients on the tax side of things. Although both an audit and a tax return are compliance services that clients need. If we didn't have to have a tax return, there aren't too many of us that would prepare a tax return. Or the same thing goes with an audit. I think with regards to why I went to tax, it's because of the creativity side of the planning thing. So our firm, from the very beginning, from the first I joined the firm, I was sitting in an office right next to the partner that founded the firm, and he had a loud voice, and he would talk on the telephone with his clients, and so I would overhear quite a number of conversations, and he was a tax guy. And so we did a lot of real estate, we did a lot of healthcare, so I picked up a lot of points on that. And so I guess the part about it that I enjoyed was being proactive. So in our firm, do we do tax returns? Absolutely, we do tax returns. The tax returns that we do, though, are primarily a result of all the planning that's taken place throughout the year prior to the end of the year. So we get to the point of doing a tax return, and you kind of know what the answer should be already because you've planned all the way along. So I enjoyed the planning process. I enjoyed sitting with the clients around the end of the year and talking about different strategies that they might put into place to help facilitate a better tax outcome than they might have otherwise wanted. And so it's the creativity side of things, which you wouldn't think that accountants are like creative or even like to talk to people. But there are some that are creative and they do enjoy talking to people.
I have to agree with you about this because when I just moved to public, everyone told me that tax is just boring. Tax, you never talk to clients, and in audit, you will have a chance to talk to everyone. That's why I went for audit at the very beginning. And then when I moved to tax, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. You still have a chance to talk with the client or communicate with the clients at the higher level and then do all the planning and everything. I was like, wow, no one ever told me about this before. But yes, you're talking about the communicating with the clients. I was wondering when you, at the early stage, when you probably moving up to like seniors or managers, when you just like slowly get to talk to the clients, how was your time when you start talking to the clients? Was you nervous?
Yeah, so the advantage that I had with talking to the clients is that I joined a fairly small firm. We probably had 8 people or 10 people in the firm at the time that I joined it. So you're doing everything. So what happened for me is I got an opportunity to do a lot of things early on. So so I was talking to clients when I was still pretty young, and you're talking to older clients, and so it's a little bit intimidating for sure. But it must have worked out okay. I was made a partner before I was 30 years old, and so once you have kind of that title behind your name, then you, for sure, clients and others listen to what you say, maybe a little bit more. When I joined the firm, there were no levels. You were either staff or you were partner. We didn't have seniors or we didn't have managers. We didn't have the other intervening staff levels. So it was either staff or partner. So, but I was fortunate that I was able to work with a number of clients and cut my teeth pretty early on. I was fortunate I was able to bring in some new business that helped as well. And I was fortunate that I was in the right place at the right time when another partner decided it was time for him to move on. So there's a variety of different things there, but there's conversations certainly that were intimidating, particularly when the client base of the firm were physicians and real estate developers. And so those types of people have somewhat stronger personalities. And so, you have to know your stuff, and you've got to convince them that you know your stuff, because they're really smart people in the areas that they're really smart in. But if you're really smart in the area that your discipline is, then you can gain their confidence.
So you moved to be a partner in like after 7 years working at the firm. Is that correct?
So I joined the firm in 1979, and at the end of 1984, I became a partner. Yeah.
Oh.
So it was about 5 years.
That's even shorter than 7 years.
5 years, maybe 6 years. Yeah.
Wow, that's really fast.
Yeah, pretty fast.
So you receive a lot of responsibilities in short period of time. Is that true?
Yeah. So I mean that's the thing, I guess. Benefit of where I was is there was a lot of responsibility that was delegated out to the staff, and so I guess I proved myself at some point that I could prepare returns or prepare audited statements, and then eventually you're reviewing that information, and then as you're talking with clients and doing the planning and all of that kind of stuff, you're getting a lot of interactions. A lot of times in public accounting, certainly, we like to have people do the same thing year after year, because every time you do it, you become more efficient. So the staff likes it because they know what they're doing, and the partners and managers like it because the staff are more efficient. The challenge is that you're not growing or expanding your capabilities. And so the part of the beauty of public accounting is you see so much, but you need to be exposed to so much as well, because as you build on what your knowledge base is, the more you build, the more valuable you become.
Yeah, and so I'm just wondering, in those 5 years, and you receive so many things, you have so many more things on your plate at the shop in such a short period of time. When was the time you feel like really stressed?
So really stressed. I mean, you're going to feel really stressed during the busy season leading up to April 15th. There's a lot to do. You work a lot of hours. There's no doubt about that, and particularly in a short period of time. Back then, we didn't extend nearly as many returns as we extend today. So we did extend returns, but not nearly as many. And so in today's world, we will extend 50 to 60% of our income tax returns, which then spreads the workload out throughout the summer and into the fall, September and October due dates. But we didn't do as much of that back then. I think for me, part of it was I probably enjoyed that. There's a certain amount of excitement or rush about getting things accomplished and moving through your workload and all of that. The one advantage of it is, that on April 16th, everything's done and, life goes back to normal. And for me, the beauty of public accounting was that I could balance when I worked. So with our younger kids, I coached a lot of soccer and I coached a lot of basketball. And I watched the kids play when they got into high school. And so the flexibility of being able to go out on a soccer field in the afternoon and coach a team, or be on a softball field in the afternoon watching my daughter play, the flexibility of that was very valuable to me. So I wasn't in the office from 8 o'clock till 5 o'clock or 8:30 to 5:30, and you didn't have that flexibility. I'm an early person, so I like to get up early and I get in early. So, I was able to leave early, or I was able to work weekends to make up for the time. The hours that you work are probably the same as what our staff are working now. I just had the flexibility to work it when I wanted, which is very much like it is today, where not only do you have the flexibility of when you work, but you have the flexibility of where you work today. It wasn't like the where you work part back when I was younger. It was, you were working in the office because that's where all the paper was.
When you were staff, that's when you work a lot of hours. When you move out, did you work more hours at the senior managers and partner in the past?
So again, I wasn't ever a senior or a manager. I just went from staff to being a partner.
Yeah, that's right.
I would say that the hours were probably more as I got up to be a partner. The hours are different. There's no doubt about that. So today, I don't know how to prepare an income tax return. I'm hoping that my return that I prepared is correct. I can still review income tax returns, but today, a lot of my time is doing meetings with our staff, answering clients' questions about planning opportunities, and that kind of stuff. And so while I still have deadlines that ultimately I'm responsible for, the staff and managers are managing those deadlines for me most of the time. And so do I still work a number of hours? I still work a lot of hours. It's just different, I guess. It's and I guess I enjoy the variety of what I'm doing today as well. I get to talk with a lot of smart people and work with a lot of smart people, and it's I enjoy, what I tell people is I enjoy probably about 95% of what I do. And there's a certain percentage for all of us that we would prefer that we didn't have to do. And maybe that's timesheets, or maybe that's billing, or maybe who knows what it is. But there's a portion there of whatever we do that we just would prefer somebody else did or we didn't have to do. But for the vast majority of what I do, I enjoy what I do.